This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors. The Outdoor Journey Show with Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan, brought to you by Journey Hunts and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan on the Outdoor Journey Show. We're talking about a controversial subject this morning, and wolves and the impact that they have. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got Steve Burson, owner of Storm Creek Outfitters, with us. And Steve, it's been great having you talk with us. Your amount of education and the level of information you bring to the table really helps us out. Let me ask you a question, Steve. Tell us specifically about the type of wolves that are in your area. I know there's some controversy that I've read about the type of wolf that has been reintroduced compared to what was originally here.
Yes, specifically, they are gray wolves or timber wolves, but there's 5 subspecies of that particular wolf, and the subspecies that they reintroduced was from northern Canada, and it was the largest of the 5 subspecies. So it's considerably bigger than the wolf that was in the Rocky Mountain area. And in fact, there was still a few of the original wolves around, and when they reintroduced that strain, they hybridized the endangered species. So that was kind of funny. But it's a very aggressive wolf. The main species that it attacked in Canada was moose, so they go after the largest prey animal they can find. And the wolves didn't do very well at all because they were used to, coyotes and stuff down here, and they get them in deep snow in the wintertime, and the wolves really don't have any defense against the pack.
Well, what kind of impact on just the game species, on the elk, the moose, the numbers, what kind of impact have wolves made in Idaho and Montana that you personally can see?
Yeah, and it depends a little bit on the areas. Where they reintroduced around Yellowstone, I think a lot of people have heard about what happened to that pack. I mean, to the herd in Yellowstone of elk. It pretty well decimated it. It's down to about 20% of what it once was. In Idaho, the herds were probably down 50 to 60% in certain zones, and after the state management, the elk are rebounding. It'll never be the elk herds that we used to have in this area. It was the largest herd in the United States in central Idaho, and they'll probably get back up into the 75% of what it used to be.
So
we're back up to maybe 60% of what the elk herd used to be at the peak.
And Idaho's done that because of their aggressive approach to balancing this herd through hunting.
Correct.
And I know that when we were talking, sitting over around dinner and talking, you mentioned it earlier, wolves are not easy to hunt. That's the thing that I think a lot of hunters don't understand. It is a tough animal to hunt.
They're extremely smart. If you try to spot and stalk, if you see them, they've already seen you. When we first could hunt them, they weren't that wary of man, but that's changed. The way they move, they tried to be efficient, and they would run the trails and road systems. They pretty well avoid that completely. So, you have to get very aggressive and put a lot of time in. It's it's a beautiful trophy. They have just incredible pelts and stuff. When you do get one, they're a beautiful animal, strong, but they're extremely smart. And the Fish and Game used to call them the alpha predator, a pack, and now they just call them a super predator. Because there's not an animal in North America that a pack of wolves can't take down.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely says a lot right there. That speaks volumes. Have you personally, because not only do you run your outfitting business, but I know you guys also have a glamping business, some glamour camping that you do. Do you personally, or do you have any stories of any negative encounters that people have had with wolves?
Several. I mean, we had a number of livestock, of course. You get that in, and be it calves in the spring, or one of my neighbors had some very high-end quarter horses, and the wolves killed one of the horses. In the backcountry, a lot of people will hike, just backpacking or day hikes with dogs, and wolves are very, very territorial. They'll kill a pet dog very easily. So we've had a number of people where their dog retreated to them, and they would actually have picked the dog up and carried it out with wolves following them at 20 to 40 yards.
Ooh.
When they're just not hunting season, or they're not hunting, so they don't have any way to defend themselves with the wolves, so they just walk out. I've not heard of any human attacks, wolf-human attacks here in Idaho and Montana, but they have had one or two in Alaska where they've had some deaths.
Right.
So they're a very aggressive animal. They are the ones in our area, because we do hunt them, do respect man. But if they can get a chance to attack a dog or an animal, we had one instance here in Montana where a female and two pups killed 180 some sheep in one evening. She was teaching them to hunt. So they can be a very, very aggressive animal.
Well, that definitely will make a rancher unhappy. No doubt about that.
And that was probably, there was some funding available early on through some of the pro-wolf organizations for the livestock conflicts and so forth, and that money has been withdrawn, so that's a big burden. Probably the biggest financial problem is they were introduced by the federal government. This species is extremely expensive to manage, and they put that burden completely on the states. And Idaho and Wyoming and Montana, have limited resources for their fish and game, so it's put a huge burden on the fish and game to manage it.
Well, here's a question I have: is there a proper balance that can be struck with the wolves that they maybe can coexist in our western states with people and other game species?
I think so. If you let the fish and game give the hunters the tools necessary, and if people want to try to spend the effort and time it takes to hunt them, I think we can maintain those numbers. But they breed very quickly. Wolves do. So it's a constant effort to try to keep their populations down to management levels.
Steve, I know when we were sitting around camp again, and again, I just want to stress the great time that was being in camp with Storm Creek Outfitters. You talked about a book that was full of accurate and valid factual information. Can you tell us a little bit about that for our listeners who maybe really want to gain a more just a greater perspective on the wolf controversy and on the true information?
Yeah, there was actually was a lawyer, and he didn't believe all the stories he heard about wolves in the West. And he had come out hunting a couple of times, so he started to research it, and he researched it from the standpoint of if he was going to prepare a case. So the title of the book is called The Real Wolf, and it's by Ted B. Lyon and Will N. Graves. And it's very, very well documented and footnoted with facts where he got the information from. It talks about the economic impact of the wolf, the economic impact of the introduction and management. And you hear so much controversy and a lot of misinformation coming out. And this book is kind of a tough read because it's so factual. But if somebody's interested in the real story, it's very well documented and backed up with data. And that's called The Real Wolf.
Well, I know I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy it. Should have already done so, but I'm going to buy it and I'm going to read it, and I'm looking forward to getting more factual, to understanding from the facts exactly what this issue is.
Well, and Ted donates a lot of the proceeds and the book to a new organization called Wildlife Forever. You'll start hearing a lot about that, I believe. And it's really set up to work the political side of game management. Because at the end of the day, none of this stuff is a biological problem. It's a political problem. So all the hunters out there, please get that book or get involved with this, and you can do as much at the polls as you can in the woods.
That's great. Steve Burson of Storm Creek Outfitters. Steve, thank you for your time. Thank you for educating us on this topic. We have an email bag, and folks, if you have a question about any of these topics, you can email me, Matt@JourneyHunts.com. And when we read your email on the radio show and we answer your question on this show, we're going to give you a beautiful knife donated from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, our title sponsor. This week's Ty, we got a question based on last week's show, actually. Where can I get that meat saver from Wall Hog Wilderness that you talked about on the show last week, talking about game preparation?
I'm glad somebody sent that in, because that was going to be my question too.
It is, and it's a great product. It's you can go to www.wallhog, WALHOG, wilderness, all one word, .com. And this product is fabulous. Saves you time, saves your meat when you're stuck in the back country, even when it gets hot.
All right. Joe, thank you for your question. Again, if you have one, email it into Matt at JourneyHunts.com. It's been a great show. We look forward to chatting with you next week. It's the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors.
This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors.